Welcome to the Township of Clark Planning Board meeting Thursday, May 1st, 2025. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing the annual schedule of meetings to the Star Ledger, Union County Local Source, Union County Hawk, and Tappan of Clark, by posting such annual meeting schedule on the bulletin board in Town Hall reserved for such announcements, and by the proper filing of said notice with the Township Clerk. Formal action may be taken at this meeting. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must always be maintained. I'm going to do roll call. Mayor Albanese?
Here.
Mr. Ulrich?
Here.
Councilman Minetti?
Here.
Mr. Koch?
Here.
Mr. Triola?
Here.
Mr. Altman?
Here.
Mr. Steinberg?
Here.
Mr. Procado?
Here.
Mr. Rancio?
Here.
Mr. Gribb? Mr. Cruz?
Here.
Mr. O'Connor?
Here.
Mr. Ricky? Okay. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Has the board had a chance to review the minutes of the March 6, 2025 meeting? Are there any questions or comments? If not, I make a motion to accept them. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. I made the motion. All correspondence is available at Town Hall for the public to view. As such, I'd like a motion to dispense with the correspondence.
Second.
Mike and Mike, I believe. Site plan application, GB7 Brew, 1005 Raritan Road, Block 63, Lot 46.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jason Tuvell from the law firm of Prime Tuvell and Maselli. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. So this is an application for a preliminary and final major site plan approval for the property located at 1005 Raritan Road. It's Block 63, Lot 46. Seven Brew is a coffee shop. They also have energy drinks as well as teas. But just for the board's edification, and you'll hear this during testimony, there's no food preparation, there's no cooking, there's no seating inside the building. It's just a preparation and drive-through for coffee, teas, and all sorts of energy drinks. Just from an operational perspective, you'll hear this as well, it's 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days per week. On their peak shift, they may have between 5 and 7 employees. On an off-peak shift, 3 to 4 employees. Deliveries are fairly minimal, twice per week, as well as trash and recycling also 1 to 2 times per week. So the purpose of the application is to redevelop the site that's at the corner of Westfield and Raritan Road that has the Santander Bank located on it. The application proposes to remove the bank and all the improvements located on the site. Currently, the site has several existing nonconformities, such as front yard setback, side yard setback when it comes to the ATM. We'll be cleaning up a lot of those pre-existing nonconformities. Some of the benefits of the project in terms of impervious coverage, we'll be bringing impervious coverage down in connection with this site, so adding more green space. The amount of outdoor space or open space that your ordinance requires, we actually have almost triple the amount. I think your ordinance requires 10%. We're at about 28% open space, so a lot more landscaping and greenery on the site, as well as some more landscaping that we're adding as part of our application. So we've had a chance to review this with your professionals, your engineer, traffic engineer, and we can comply with all the comments set forth in their letter, in addition to the fire department that also provided comments and the police department that provided comments. And there's one comment in the police letter that we'll go through during testimony. But the application is very, I would say, clean with respect to, from a zoning perspective, complies with front yard setbacks, coverages as it relates to building coverage, impervious, well under the required floor area ratio that's permitted in the zone. We've gone to the county. The county has conditionally approved the application, had no major comments as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I have 4 witnesses that I plan on calling. I don't expect any of them to be extensive, but I think each one is important. So I have the first witness will be Zach Roskam. He's the representative of the applicant. He'll give the board a little bit of a sense of what Seven Brew is all about. There's 300 of them throughout the country, but they're new to New Jersey, so I think a little bit of an explanation would be helpful. In addition to that, going through the operational characteristics that I just mentioned before. Then I'll have our site engineer walk the board through the layout of the site plan. Then I'll have our traffic engineer go third. And then finally, I'll have our professional planner go through the variance testimony, which really just relates to the signage. And what you'll see is the reason that there's some sign variance relief here is that most ordinances, including yours, have signage based on the percentage of the facade. Here we have such a small building, it's 510 square feet, so the facade percentage is going to be a little bit higher just as a function of the fact that the building is small, but the actual facade signs are not that large. But we'll go through that testimony when we get to that point. I provided my affidavit of service and publication to the board, so unless there's any questions for me, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd be happy to call the first witness.
Please do so.
Okay, thank you very much. So the first witness I'd like to call is Zach Roskam, and again, he's a representative of the applicant. And Donna, we should use this one?
Testing. Can you hear me?
Mr. Chair, before you begin, I have reviewed the public notice, the affidavit of publication, and they all comply with applicable law, and the board has jurisdiction to hear this matter. Just to recap what the application is, in addition to preliminary and final site plan approval, there are various bulk variances that are required. The first one is to allow, as was said, less than the side yard setback in a residential district, where it is required 50 feet and 31.3 feet is proposed. To allow more facade signs than permitted. 1 is permitted, 5 are proposed. To allow a greater facade sign area than permitted, 30.9 square feet versus 36 feet proposed. And to allow a greater area of a second menu sign than permitted, 5 square feet is permitted versus 10.1 feet proposed. And to allow a greater posted menu area sign than permitted, 1.5 square feet permitted, 7.8 square feet proposed. Thank you.
No problem. Would you like to swear in Mr. Roskam?
Yes. Please raise your right hand. Just follow me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Use the mic.
I, Zachary Roskam, do solemnly swear
that I will tell the truth
that I will tell the truth
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
State your name and your address and spell your name.
Sure. My name is Zachary Roskam, Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y, space Roskam, R-O-S-S-K-A-M-M, Mary. My address is 199 State Street, apartment 2B, Brooklyn, New York, 11201.
So Zach, if you could just give the board the benefit of your role with the project, what are your duties and responsibilities? What's your title with the company?
Sure. So I'm a co-owner of the local franchisee. So Seven Brew is a national business, but we are the local franchisee. My wife and I right here, Shinori, are the local owner and will be the owner of this site. And we first want to just say we really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and potentially be joining this community. Seven Brew's motto is cultivating kindness, and we'd love the chance to bring that to Clark. But
Okay. So in your role as being the person that's going to see the day-to-day operations of the facility, let's first start with hours of operation and number of employees, and also just indicate what type of product Seven Brew has and what distinguishes it from other facilities that are similar.
absolutely. So Seven Brew is beverage only. We sell coffees, teas, lemonades, smoothies, milkshakes, flavored sodas, energy drinks, matcha, chai, all basically any beverage you could potentially want. We are open from 5:30 a.m. till 10 p.m. On a peak shift, we typically have about 5 to 7 employees. On a non-peak, which is typically around 7:30 a.m. till around 9:30 a.m. Non-peak, which is the remainder of the day, 3 or 4 employees, depending on the day and the hour. And a total number of employees, since most of them are part-time, is upwards of about 40 to 50. all part-time, usually working about 15 to 25 hours a week in a part-time capacity.
Okay. And then can you just describe the types of deliveries that you get and how often?
Yeah, so trash usually comes twice a week, and then inventory deliveries also usually twice a week.
Okay.
And since it's beverage only, it's fairly quick on the deliveries as well.
And just describe how orders are taken, both walk-up window and also just in the drive-through lane.
Yeah, so we're primarily, we're drive-through only, so 99+% of our business is drive-through. If someone were to walk up to the building, we don't turn them away, but we do not encourage that. We don't advertise it, so someone can walk up to the building and take an order, but it is not a primary part of our business. We are over 99% drive-through. We come to your car to take your order. We're all about the person-to-person experience. So one of our employees will come to you with an iPad, explain the menu, walk you through it, take your order, and then you continue through the drive-through, and then someone will come to you with your drink to deliver the beverage as well. So you'll have at least 2 person-to-person interactions in every visit.
So unlike maybe other similar facilities, not to name them, there's no speaker system associated with the ordering of the product, correct?
That's correct. Everything is person-to-person.
That's all I have for Mr. Roskim. I just wanted him to give the board an overview of the operations, kind of what Seven Brew was, just because some of us are not familiar. But the engineer will obviously walk through the site in detail, and the traffic engineer, Mr. Chairman, will go through the trip generation and parking for everybody as well. Oh, I had one more question for Mr. Roskim that might be relevant for the board. The parking spaces are just for the employees, correct?
That's correct.
So a regular customer can't park and walk up?
That's correct.
Okay, I just thought that was important for the board to know.
I see there's 2 lanes. How is the coffee delivered to the customer?
Yeah, so we actually offset the 2 lanes. If you look, and the engineer can talk about this a little bit more, there's a crosswalk in front of the first lane so that someone can come out, and making sure that that car is at the stop bar. There's a stop bar right there to make sure the car is stopped. They come out to the second lane, deliver the drink, make sure the car is stopped before returning to the building.
Does the first lane then get a window, or they also get hand-delivered?
No, they also get hand delivery. So there's actually 2 doors on that side of the building, one specifically for lane 2, the second lane, that's at the front of the building, offset a little bit so that it can go in front of the first lane. And then there's a separate door for lane 1 where someone can come out and deliver the drink.
So it's personally meet and greet when they first come in and delivered by hand personally?
That's correct.
Is this your first franchise with the company, or do you have others?
So we have 6 approved sites across the state of New Jersey. We are the New Jersey franchisee.
Okay, so you haven't opened one yet. This is the first.
So Washington Township's in the process of opening right now, but it's real time. So nothing stable and open yet.
You've been training with them just for how long, just to answer the question? Too?
Oh, yes. So I actually was a part originally of another franchise, so I've actually been working with Seven Brew for about 4 years.
Very good, thank you.
And I wanted to just get to the root of your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
This person-to-person, it's regardless of weather.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
And that's how it operates across we have about 375 locations across the country. That's how it operates everywhere, including Wisconsin, North Dakota, in very, very cold environments. We rotate people inside and outside so that you're never outside for too long if it's particularly cold or bad weather. We also have cold weather gear and warm weather gear. We have fans set up. We have heaters set up to make sure that the team is taken care of. And there's a canopy to cover people for bad weather as well.
I have a question. What is the average wait time per car from the time they order to the time they pick up their beverages?
Yeah, so it varies by location and how busy you are, but it's typically about 3 to 3.5 minutes.
How many cars do you anticipate going through during the morning rush?
Yeah, so we did a traffic study on a nearby location in Sinking Spring. Typically, the average queue is about 8 or 9, and the peak gets to about 12.
Board have any other questions?
Obviously, we'll have the technical witnesses get into more of the.
The one you have in Washington Township, that's not running right now.
It just opened in real time. We're going through our opening procedures right now. So
How many weeks you open for?
we've been open 8 days.
Oh, okay.
So literally right now in real time, we actually just came straight from there to here.
All right.
Samples are out in the parking lot?
We, of course.
Okay. If I have a motion to open this to the public. Anybody in the public who wish to come forward and ask questions of this testimony and this testimony only, please do so. Motion?
Second.
Thank you. Carmen and Mike? Seeing
Thank you all.
nobody come forward, I make a motion to close this to the public.
Motion.
Second?
Okay, Okay. Mike. All right, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, the next witness I'd like to call is our civil engineer, Aaron Chan, with Stonefield Engineering and Design, so we can swear him in too.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
Aaron Chan,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will tell the truth,
that I will tell the truth,
nothing but the truth, and
nothing but the truth, but help me God. I do.
All right, so Aaron, since you're being proffered as an expert, can you just go through your educational background, licenses held, and experience testifying as a civil engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Sure, of course. I graduated with a bachelor's in civil engineering from the College of New Jersey. I've been practicing in the field for the last 11 years. I'm a licensed professional.
Accept.
Motion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so Aaron, why don't we orient the board to the existing conditions briefly, and then jump into the layout of the site plan, and
Sure.
I'll let you control this. Yeah, you can use that.
Sure. To go over the site, I don't think I need to give much introduction. It's just right down the street. It's the Santander property that I'm sure most people here are pretty familiar with. But I do want to point out a few of the things we've already spoken about, just to give a little bit of context as we.
Just one thing, it's not up on the.
Sure. Yeah. It's online. It's on this page.
I'm assuming, yeah, so they should go up on the screen, correct, when he does it there?
It is.
We have boards if we need it, but I just, they had indicated that this was a better way to look at it.
Yeah, it's open. It's open. Behind it.
Oh,
Yeah, behind it.
Huh.
This is the exhibit.
why is it on the screen?
I know, it just takes a name. You could switch to the. Nate. Yep. Oh, this one. There we go. Done. There it is. Thanks, Mike. All right, you good. Just hit that off, and you could close that. All right.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so just to briefly go over the site, this is the Santander property. The site can be accessed right now via a ingress-only driveway off of Raritan Road and egress off of Westfield Avenue. It's a rectangular-shaped lot. It is a corner property with two frontages. It is located in the neighborhood commercial zone where the proposed coffee shop would be a permitted use. The existing property itself, the building is 2,800 square feet. I'll zoom in a little bit, but you can see it's pretty tight to the hard corner of the intersection.
Let's just mark this as A1, so this will be the aerial exhibit.
Sure. And then the building itself, you can see in our pink line, that's actually the 50-foot setback off of each of the. Oh, thank you. You can see in the pink setback, that shows the allowable developable footprint within this property, offsetting 50 feet from both the frontages. You see that the current building for the bank is quite a bit far into encroaching into that front yard setback. I think it's 12 to 14 feet off of each of the frontages. There's also a few other existing nonconformities associated with that remote ATM canopy in the back portion of the property, as well as the trash enclosures that's tight to the easterly corner of the property that's in a non-compliant location as well. So overall, there's, I believe, 3 ATM lanes, and totals up to 72% impervious coverage, and about 23 parking spaces on site. I think it's clear that, that building up against the intersection there. It's not great for sight lines and everything else. And you'll see with our proposed application, our proposed building is all in a compliant location.
You want to move to the proposed?
Sure.
All right, so we'll mark the next exhibit as A2, and we'll put that up. Bless you.
Had to reopen this one, I think.
Okay, so A2 is a colorized rendering of the site plan. Bless you. Exactly what the board has in its packet. It's just colorized with the landscaping on it, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we're taking the liberty to colorize the plan that was submitted, and then we're also showing the proposed landscaping, and that way it gives a clean visual of what it is we're proposing. And I think, just before I get into the site, I think, we already spoken about this briefly, but really the entire model and of Severn Brew is really to introduce the modern convenience that's associated with the drive-through facility, all the while injecting back some of the personal interactions that you will find with a storefront. So really the way it's set up is to be efficient, all the while building a familiar and intimate experience as far as for the customer. So trying to move away from the screenless and the touchless and the menu board ordering and that type of stuff. You'll have a employee that's a greeter and the employee that will explain the menu to you, help you with any making your decisions for your transaction, and then ultimately deliver you the drinks. So that's really the entire basis of the brand, and the site will follow that idea all the way through. That being said, the proposed building itself, as mentioned, is very small. It's 510 square feet. There's also a refrigeration shed that's 260 square feet. And all of that's tied together with a metal canopy to form one cohesive structure. The units themselves, the building itself is prefabricated, so it will get brought onto site via a couple different modules, and it'll get dropped onto site, and that allows the construction time for a site like this to be very, very quick. So I believe in Turnersville, they were able to very efficiently go through it. It generally takes about 10 to 12 weeks overall construction from ground all the way up and all the way finished. That being said, I did mention it is a proposed use within this zone, and the proposed site, and as far as the building, all that, we're fully conforming with all the bulk requirements, with the exception of the side yard setback, as previously mentioned. So that particular area is just for the overhang canopy. I kind of mouse over it in this area, and that's setback 31.3 feet, where 50 feet is required. And we do want to make mention, it's actually in the CN zone. Typically, if we're not abutting a residential zone, the RB16 to our north, the setback would actually only be 20 feet. And that's the other pink line we showed across the northerly line of the site here.
And the bulk of the building, or the actual building, separate from the canopy, is all 50 feet from that property line, correct?
That's correct. The entirety of the actual building itself is fully compliant as far as its location, and only a 25-foot segment of the canopy projects into that setback. And really, as you heard, it's to provide shelter for the employees. It's where all the drinks will be delivered to the customers. There's heat lamps underneath. It's sort of as a convenience, also as a comfort for the employees as well as the customers.
So why don't you walk the board through the access and circulation, and then we can get into landscaping, lighting, and stormwater management.
Sure, yeah. And really the main feature of a drive-through facility are the drive-through lanes themselves. On this particular site, what we were able to accommodate is a 21-car queuing capacity. It's going to operate in a counterclockwise manner compared to, similar coffee type of brands. I don't need to name them, but typically we see queue stacks from 8 to 12 for a type of coffee shop, and another one that usually ranges from 15 to 18 car stack. So for this layout, we're at 21 vehicles. As you heard, operationally, we do anticipate the typical peak is going to peak out around 12. So we show, and an average peak of around 8 to 10 cars. So in this exhibit here, we've shown the 9 vehicles in the queue. So you can see that, we're kind of at half of their overall capacity. And we do try to over-design these sites a little bit, just because given the corner intersection this is situated on, we want to make sure there's a little bit of buffer in case they're running a promotion or it's a little bit busier than we had originally anticipated. You heard a little bit about the way it operates as well. The employees are on tablets. They're going to come to your car, take your order, and because of that, they are in the line. So we oversized the lanes themselves from a typical 8 to 10 feet wide. These lanes are 12.5 feet wide, as well as a pavement-marked area, striped area in between lane 1 and lane 2. That's another 2 feet wide, as well as a sidewalk that's on the inner radius of the island here. So all those features allows for employees to safely and efficiently work the line and take orders and greet customers and guide vehicles just to make sure they're compact and kind of moving through the line quickly. If somebody's playing around on their phone or anything like that, they'll kind of ask them to keep going through the line. So just to cut down on the transactional time as much as possible. And really, that's how they are really achieving that 3-minute turnaround from the moment an order is placed to the moment it's picked up. Another feature that's a little bit special and unique to their configuration is because they're able to bring the drinks to the outer lane, lane 2, where I'll hover the mouse. If you were stuck behind a large order and your drink was ready beforehand and it was brought to your car, we've also incorporated a bypass lane. So if you're in this outer lane, you're able to essentially exit the lane after you picked up your drink. That allows for the queue to also operate a little bit more efficiently in that mode as well.
All right, you want to touch on landscaping and lighting?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just kind of gloss over it quickly again. So the 8 spaces that's purely for employees will be at the southerly portion of the lot. Again, it just matches that peak shift that we have. You know, you heard it's 5 to 7 on the absolute peak, typically 3 to 4. This does meet the township's ordinance and exceeds it. And then the loading area, I think, was a question in some of the professionals' review letters. We do anticipate there will, since these spaces are for employee only and there's limited shifts, and the unloading is really just for drink mixes. The unloading time for delivery is only 15 minutes. It's a very quick turnaround, and they get that twice a week during off-peak hours. We anticipate that they'll unload generally adjacent to the angled parking spaces, and they'll deliver and bring the goods up through the crosswalk into the refrigeration shed where the goods will be stored. And I'll just very briefly touch on the stormwater. So, you know, we did previously mention that we are very slightly reducing the impervious coverage on site here. And I think while it's not a significant amount, you know, we do want to make mention of it because we are redeveloping a property. And, you know, there are some natural enhancements. What we're able to achieve for the open space is, you know, a little close to 3 times the requirement of 10%. And what we're doing with that open space is the landscaping component that I want to talk about. So for landscaping, you kind of see it scattered throughout our site. In the existing condition, there's a limited amount of landscaping. There's a few large trees. However, and then there's a few shrubs along the front of the building. However, in our proposed condition, we aim to evenly distribute it across the site with a special emphasis on that northerly property line that we share with the apartments to our north. There's a total of 57 deciduous and evergreen trees scattered across the property and a handful of shrubs as well as perennials and ground cover. And we did concentrate the evergreen trees along that northerly property line. That's going to further provide some site beautification as well as 365-day green screening for that side of the property. There is an existing 6-foot vinyl fence along this entire stretch, and we did double row it. So once it comes in and fully stabilizes, it will form very cohesive and green screen across that northerly front. And the trash enclosure is fully screened as well on all edges, and it opens to Westfield Avenue. And really the intention here is to provide that 365-day green screening, like I said, across the sensitive part of the site, all the while, you know, introducing deciduous trees that's compliant with the township ordinance as far as trees are concerned, and to really enhance the curb appeal of this site as well.
Aaron, and I think Mr. Ritchie's report and Mr. O'Connor's report had requested some additional landscaping in certain areas. Will the applicant comply with that?
Yes.
Okay. And then before you get to the next topic, you've reviewed all of the professional reports that have been submitted?
Yes.
All right, and the applicant will comply with those reports?
Yes, we can comply with them.
Okay.
So the next thing I want to introduce is the colorized versions of the architectural elevations that was submitted.
Yeah, this was submitted. I don't know, Mr. Cruz, if you want to mark it, but this was, okay, so you want to mark it? Okay, so we'll mark this as A3.
Marked as A3, and what A3 is the submitted architectural elevation showing all four sides of the proposed building. So as I stated before, it is a very small building, 510 square feet. It's about 14, 15 feet wide in its total. And that will make sense when it comes down to the signage variance that we're seeking as far as the percentage calculation. But it features very high quality finishes. It's a fiber cement Nichiha board across every elevation. So it has consistent materials and consistent colors across every side. We do know it is proposed at a corner property, so it will be visible from pretty much all the elevations. Along the base, you have a dark brick knee wall, and then on the higher side, you have more of a whitewashed brick. It's also a faux brick finish, and that's all tied together with that metal canopy I previously spoke about with a signature blue color. That's more of a corporate standard, but it generally ties together very well as one cohesive structure. And like I said before, it is a prefabricated, so it does get pretty much nearly finished and then dropped onto site.
And the trash enclosure also matches the building, correct?
Correct. The trash enclosure also features the same color and materials, this Nichiha panel. So it's very cohesive across the property. The refrigeration shed, the storage shed area is what I'm hovering over, also features that dark brick finish.
And the menu boards that we're proposing, those are the ones shown in the elevation, correct?
Correct. So these are the two menu boards that's underneath the canopy, that's mounted on the column for the canopy itself. And this is the one that's on the interior side for the very 1% of transactions that do walk up. We do have a menu board on that side as well. I'll just flip down to the next page. I'll show you the side elevations as well. So this would be the side that's facing Westfield Avenue. You see the branded signage as well as the directional sign that says "Drive-through coffee" that allows motorists to understand which way the traffic circulation operates on site. And on the bottom elevation, this is the elevation that's facing the apartments. We actually took off the typical signage that we would propose here. Given that size of that particular building, we don't think it's too visible from the street, so we didn't see a sense in proposing that sign, just to maybe be a little bit more mindful of our neighbors as well. Previously, we spoke about the two walkout doors. So as opposed to a pickup window, there's two walkout sliding doors, and that allows employees to walk out with the drinks to be delivered into their respective lanes, and that allows for a very efficient mode of operation as well.
Aaron, just on the signs, the only signs we're proposing are the 7 Brew one on that side elevation, and then just go back to the 7 Brew sign on the front. We technically need variances. Just go back to the other wall signs. Just go back to, sorry, are those directional signs on the building, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a total of 5 wall signs being proposed, and we do know only 2 of them are branded. The medallion logo that's in the front, and then the 3 of them are the directional signs on the various sides of the building. So that adds up to a total of.
Right. And all the rooftop mechanicals, if there are any, will be screened, correct?
Correct. Yeah, rooftop mechanicals will be screened with parapet walls, and maybe I'll just speak a little bit to the signage calculation as well.
Sure.
So on that front facade, this is what I previously mentioned. This building is very narrow, 14, 15 feet wide. The ordinance allows for 10%. And when we did the calculation for this particular sign, which is a 6-foot diameter circle, it's a standard that they carry, it worked out to be, I think, 11.6%. So it's slightly over that allowable requirement, but it's really due to the fact that the building itself is so small, and that's why it's slightly over that 10% allowable. We did carry that 10%, across all of our frontages and the elevations. We calculated, I believe, 160 square feet is permissible, and the total aggregate of all of our signs, the inclusive of the directionals that's mounted on the building and the other branded sign on the side elevation, the total aggregate, I believe, was around 83 square feet. So we are much lower than if that 10% if you calculate it across all frontages. And that's achievable because of the fact that we didn't propose a sign on this particular elevation. As far as freestanding sign is concerned, there's an existing Santander sign that's at the corner. We're proposing to repanel that. It is a little bit lower to the ground, but it's in a compliant location. It's a compliant size. We're proposing to repanel that particular sign. As far as menu board signs, we spoke about that briefly already. There is 2 There are essentially 55-inch TVs that's mounted on a column, and the ordinance allows for that second menu board sign to be 50% of the size. So both of them are the same size, so we're seeking a variance related to that. And then lastly, the menu board that's on the walk-up side, I believe 1.5 square feet is allowed, and we're proposing 7.8 square feet.
Okay. And then in terms of outside agencies, you've applied to the county, soil conservation district, et cetera?
That's correct, yeah. We did receive a conditional approval letter from Union County. Their comments that they have were very minor in nature. It was about adding notes and then adding their Union County specific standards for the driveway.
All right. And you've also reviewed the fire department letter. We'll comply with that.
Yeah, we received the fire department's letter. There was a request to turn the apparatus. We did do so. We submitted it back to that to the chief via email, and we did receive a feedback from them today that said it looks good generally as far as the apparatus turning is concerned. We will require some mountable curbing on the interior corner of our site, but on a landscape island, it's not a big deal to accommodate.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. For Mr. Chan, we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Yeah, I was going to have, if it's okay with you, the traffic engineer goes through those, because those more relate to the turning restrictions. So we're happy to address those, but just for the next witness, if that's okay.
Yeah. Looking at pictures of others, it's on. I'm sorry. Okay. Looking at pictures of their 7 Brews, the main building that's 2 floors basically.
Yeah, so it's essentially 2 floors, 20 feet high total, and that back area, this nook, essentially allows for their mechanical equipment. And you see this little walkout door there. It's a bit of like an attic space. There's a little bit of storage up there, but it's one of those like pull-down ladders, and you exit out into, there's a little bit of interior space, but then there's the mechanicals here behind the screen walls.
Okay, and then the signage will be able to be seen then 2 floors being on the 2nd story.
Yeah, so this sign is mounted, let me grab the, yeah, I think it's about 11 feet from the bottom to the bottom of the sign, and then at the top of the sign, the top height of that particular circle, I think is at 17 feet or so.
We're at 19.7 feet in height, where the ordinance allows you to go up to 35. So we're pretty far under what's permitted.
Just asking.
That's okay. But we should have clarified that, so thank you.
There's no further questions. I make a motion to open this witness to any questions from the public. Do you have a second? Thank you, Lance. Anybody from the public wishing to come up and ask questions of this witness's testimony, this testimony only, please do so. Seeing no one come forward, I make a motion to close this to the public. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next witness, Mr. Chairman, is our traffic engineer, Matthew Seckler from Stonefield Engineering and Design. So we can swear him in.
I state your name.
I, Matthew Seckler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will tell the truth,
that I tell the truth
and nothing but the truth
and nothing but the truth
in this proceeding.
in this proceeding.
Help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. State your name or spell your name and your address, please.
Certainly. My name is Matthew Seckler. That's Seckler. I'm with Stonefield Engineering Design. Address is 92 Park Avenue in Rutherford, New Jersey.
Matt, just like Aaron, can you just give the board your professional credentials for the record?
I'm a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey. I specialize as a traffic engineer. I've been accepted for over 150 boards in the state, and I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So Matt, your office submitted a report in connection with this matter.
Correct. It was dated February 14th, 2025.
Can you go over the analysis set forth in that report as it relates to trip generation, parking, and on-site circulation?
Absolutely. As part of a traffic study, what we first do is we study the traffic. We go out there and see and understand how the traffic moves in the area. Being a Union County resident myself, I know the traffic volumes that Raritan Road experiences, especially this intersection as well as the intersection on Central Avenue. This is a pretty well-traveled corridor. Just looking at the typical traffic patterns and volumes, you have a lot of traffic heading north on Raritan Road, likely heading to the Parkway in the morning. In Saturdays, which is another time period that we studied, again, it's a little mixed, but again, a pretty high traffic volume area just based on the residences that are kind of off these 2 major roads, and then all the commercial activity that you have on Raritan Road between here and Central Ave and beyond. We did do traffic counts as part of this project on November 13th, 2024. That was a Wednesday, from 7 in the morning to 9 in the morning to capture that morning rush hour peak period, as well as on Saturday, November 2nd, 2024, which was from 9 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon. That was our Saturday time period. Again, that's what we typically see as the peak rush for coffee on a Saturday, is between that 9 to 12 peak period. I would note that the Wednesday we did the count, school was in session. Obviously, as you go down Westfield Ave here, you do have the school, you have the municipal building, this building down here. So we wanted to make sure that when we did our counts, we got to include any type of school traffic that was going through this intersection. As I mentioned, when we study the traffic volumes out there, again, pretty high traffic volume, but it does tend to move through this intersection. You tend not to wait at this intersection twice. It may take a while for your light to be served. It takes about 2 minutes for all the directions of traffic to get their green light. But typically, unless you're kind of post the train coming, kind of backing up things further down Westfield Avenue, we get that rush of traffic. You typically get kind of traffic pushing through here, at least on the traffic on the green light every cycle. We did take the traffic volumes we counted in 2024. We increased them by 2.25% compounded annually for the next 2 years to look at what traffic is projected to be like at this intersection in the future, even if nothing is built on this corner. Again, just based on vacancies in buildings, new residential developments coming online, the state of New Jersey had recommended that 2.25% as increased traffic year over year for this corridor and this roadway system in Union County. So overall, we took that traffic volume and we added in the amount of traffic that we would be adding to the roadway system. Now, 7 Brew, much like many other coffee shops, they get the majority of their customer base from pass-by traffic. That large amount of volume, those 2,000 cars that are driving by in the busiest hour, that's their customer base, especially when you consider that they really aren't offering any indoor seating. This isn't a spot where you're spending the 2 hours studying for some exam. You're in this site because it's convenient to you, and then you're back on your roadway system. I see a lot of people coming in here on their way to the Parkway in the morning, picking up their coffee, making a right out onto Raritan Road, and continuing in that direction. And so when we do our analysis, we take into account that we're kind of sucking in this existing traffic as opposed to adding brand new traffic on the roadway system. Overall, in terms of the amount of traffic that we'd expect to generate, we utilize the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. This is the definitive source that our industry, as well as the county and the state, when they review our projects, utilize when they project what future sites will generate in terms of traffic. Now, while this is I'd say a fairly new concept, 7 Brew doesn't exist has one site in New Jersey today. This is not a new concept for the traffic engineering industry. They have a specific land use code, specific set of data for coffee shops with no indoor seating and just drive-through. So because this exists elsewhere in the country, we've studied them in other sites and have a projected trip generation, which would expect a site like this to generate about 90 trips in a peak hour. That's basically 45 cars coming in, 45 cars going out would be the average during their peak hours, during their peak morning time periods. And accounting that for kind of how that light at Raritan Road and Westfield Avenue operates, you're talking about 1 to 2 cars going through that light that would be each cycle. So while you wait there, if you watched every direction get their green light, 1 to 2 cars, each one of those cycles, would be a customer to this site during the morning peak hours. That's basically what you kind of correlate the amount of traffic on the road versus the trip generation that we're expected to generate. And again, a vast majority of those people are people driving through today, driving by a vacant bank, a bank that's been empty for 2 years, but now having the opportunity to utilize this coffee shop or drink shop. So we take that traffic volume that we're adding to the roadway network, we analyze and we determine how much that 1 to 2 more cars a cycle impacts traffic on the roadways. And that 1 to 2 new cars every cycle, that equates to about 1 to 2 seconds of additional delay depending on which direction you're coming from. So again, very minimal increase. If your commute to work got increased by 1 to 2 seconds, you likely wouldn't notice it. You're probably making through in the same green light. You just may have another car in front of you on your way getting through that green light that you experienced today going through that area. Now again, understanding that Having lived in Union County, I do know of, I guess we don't name names of other coffee shops, but there's one drive-through only in Cranford right near the Parkway. Having experienced that one, I want to, comment on how our site plan and our site operates versus that style, because I know that site has had some significant issues being a drive-through only and having the queue kind of back up towards the driveways and possibly spill beyond during peak periods. This site, just in general, in terms of land mass, is twice the size of that site in Cranford. Not only that, because we could operate through 2 drive-through lanes, our queue capacity is significantly greater than what that site has. I think that site, maybe 10 cars could fit in the queue before it kind of wraps around itself. Here, as Aaron mentioned, you're talking about 22 to 23 cars just within the lanes itself, and there is even beyond more room to stack even more than 22 cars if it ever reached that point. I don't know what I could do to make this stop being blue, but yeah, so we could fit, again, 22 to 23 cars easily within the drive-through lanes we have here, and because we could be efficient in the sense that we could deliver coffee or drinks to 2 different cars at the same time, we're able to move that queue even faster. As was mentioned, we did do counts at Sinking Springs, which is in Pennsylvania. Again, the New Jersey site just opened a week ago, so we haven't studied that site yet. But the Sinking Springs site, we saw, as the operator mentioned, the median time it takes from when you stop your car at the end of the drive-through to when you pick up your drink or coffee was between 3 minutes and 20 seconds and 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So again, if you are the 11th car in the queue, they were able to move you and all 11 cars in front of you in 3 minutes and basically 30 seconds, which is much faster than you see at many other sites. And again, that is attributed to their customer service, the way they basically are out on the site. You're basically, the second you get on the site, you're placing your order instead of waiting, let's say, 4 cars before you can get to the order window. Here, you're basically getting your order taken the second you stop your car. So it is a very efficient model, and you can move these cars, again, out quite quickly, 3 minutes and 30 seconds in and out off the site. Again, as was mentioned, we saw the max queue out there with around 12 to 13 cars during the busiest time periods. And again, 12 to 13 cars, that's about half of what we have accommodated for on this site. So we definitely have sufficient capacity to store those type of vehicles. I believe access is the other aspect I would like to talk about. As shown on the site plan, we are proposing a right-in, right-out driveway on Westfield Avenue. Only way to get in would be coming basically north on Westfield Avenue, making a right-in, and anyone leaving that driveway would have to make a right-out. We are in agreement that we would work with your police officers and law enforcement agencies, as well as the county, because they have jurisdiction over the driveways.
Can you just fix that screen? So
Yeah.
maybe enlarge it one more. We're not looking at
there is a mouse.
the same size here. So
There we go.
Here we go. Thank you. Sorry about that.
there you go.
So I'm circling now the driveway at Westfield Avenue. This is the one I was discussing first. This will be right in, right out. I believe in the police letter, they indicated they'd like to see an island of some sort there. We'd be happy to work with the county and your police to design an island that's appropriate for that location. Again, it is a county roadway. We have to comply with their standards as well as their police recommendation, but that would be a right in, right out driveway along Westfield Avenue. At the Raritan Road driveway, as per the way the site is designed now, we have proposed that you would only be able to make a right turn out, but you'd be able to make either a right turn in or a left turn into that driveway. The reason why we proposed that was because your left turn would be from a left turn lane, so it would not be basically blocking any through traffic. And we felt that if there was going to be left turns into the site, we clearly would want it to be along Raritan Road, where they'd be crossing basically, while it's 2 lanes of traffic, it's 2 lanes of traffic after the intersection versus a left turn in from Westfield Avenue where cars are already basically stacked up waiting for the light to turn green and blocking that driveway. And on Westfield Avenue, there is basically you'd be stopped in a through lane, and we felt that that was not a location where we would want left-turning cars legally or illegally. So our recommendation was to have left turns in and out, left turns in along Raritan Road, but only allow right turns out along Raritan Road. I believe in your police letter, he indicated, I believe that was Detective Weber, indicated that he wants that driveway to also operate right in, right out. I had some correspondence with him today. He unfortunately said he would not be able to meet with me until Monday, but he did say that he'd be happy to work with us and discuss what options we have for that driveway, whether it does become right in, right out, or allows for the left turn in. One of the things that I've seen on sites like this is to potentially do something where, let's say the left turn is permitted for 90 days, see how the site operates, and then the police would be able to, regulate this and making it right in, right out if there turns out to be issues. Again, my concern is if we don't allow it there, someone who wants to get to the site coming down Raritan Road, they'll end up making the left onto Westfield Avenue, and then they may be feeling like they have to make the left turn in Westfield Avenue. So I'd rather have it be able to be made legally in a better location than kind of have people kind of trapped if they're coming in from that Raritan Road in that southbound direction to kind of force them to the Westfield Ave location. So again, that was my thought. I'm going to be meeting with him, looks like on Monday, and would like to resolve that. But again, my thought is give it like a 90-day window, see how it operates, and then we could always put a left turn enforcement after the fact in that case. But again, I don't want to minimize the police officers or detectives' concerns. Again, knowing the volumes on these roadways, I do know that typically, the township does like to have turn restrictions, but I would also mention the county in their review did not recommend any changes to the driveways as per our design. So again, happy to work with all those agencies and your police officer, but that was our thought behind the driveway design that we have here. Other than that, again, as Mr. Chant talked about, parking just for employees, we have sufficient to meet the max shift. We have designed the site. We do have a crosswalk to the basically front of the building. I don't know if Mr. Chan had mentioned it, but our site plan did show a table near the front pickup window. We'd be looking to take that out. I think there was a concern in one of the review letters regarding, that may encourage people to park, customers to park here and then eat out front, have their drinks out front. That's not the proposed condition. So therefore, again, we'd be happy to remove the table and not have any loitering or anyone waiting around on the site other than picking up their drinks at the pickup window. Other than that, all the circulation designed on the site accommodates designed vehicles. We have been in contact with the fire department, as I believe Mr. Chan mentioned, and we will be making some modifications to some of the curbing on the site to make sure the fire vehicle could circulate sufficiently on site.
Matt, all of the driveways have proper site distances?
All driveways have proper site distances. It's generally in the same locations as the driveway is out there today. And again, we do have conditional approval with the county, with the one condition being updating some of the details and notes on the plan.
And the application complies with all ADA requirements for parking, and all the regular parking spaces are properly sized?
Correct. Yes, they are.
Okay. And then you reviewed Mr. Troutman's letter and agreed to comply with any comments if you haven't addressed them already?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for Mr. Seckler.
Anyone from the board have any questions? Sure.
In regards to the left turn in from Raritan, where does your entrance propose to start in conjunction to where the curve of the yellow double line opens up for that left turn? Is it before it?
Yep. So I'm going to show you on this image, but I could also give you a couple measurements. I believe that we have 100 feet from, let's say, where the left turn lane, where the stop bar is, back 100 feet, so you can fit 4 cars before our driveway is. And then you have about another 50 feet, so about 2 more cars behind that before the left turn lane ends. And yeah, so you would be able to stack 4 cars at the light and let's say 2 cars for our driveway before you get to the yellow crosshatch.
Now, that does have a green arrow from Westfield making right at the red light.
It has an overlapping right turn. So when the left turn from Raritan goes,
Yep.
the right turn from.
And is there a concern from people in that left turn lane that want to go into this shop to make that left as someone's making a right from Westfield onto Raritan because they have the green arrow?
I would be concerned if we were closer to the intersection because we're 100 feet back at the stop bar, but that stop bar is also about 30 or so feet back from really where even the crosswalk is. So I think that we have enough distance that those cars, when they come around, they're able to be seen versus, the car kind of just popping out of you. I'd also mention that right now the building sits basically right up on the, much closer onto the corner, I think you saw in the image. It does kind of make that corner almost a little more of a hidden movement. I think with this design and the building kind of being moved back into the center of the site, you will have much better sight lines when you're coming around the corner than what exists today.
And then there would be a sign on Westfield Ave, no left turn in.
No left turn in sign, and again, we would put an island there as long as the county and your own professionals agree.
So forcing that, basically, you can't physically can't make that.
Correct. And again, that's what my feeling is. I know that a customer coming from that direction, if they see a no left turn at Raritan, they're going to come around the corner, and then they're going to be like, what do I do now? And some of them are going to try to make that left, so I'd rather at least give them the option at the first driveway on the way in. Again, if it turns out 90 days, it's, there's issues and concerns, I think that would be the time period to do some correction.
Can you go over the flow of the actual building? So, I'm coming in from Westfield.
Yep.
I come around right where your arrow is, right?
Yep. You go, and I'm going to refer to this as kind of planned directions, not
Okay.
cardinal directions. So you would come in.
Right.
You go up.
You're on A2, right?
I'm on A2. You go up or north, let's say. Then you make a left. You're now side by side with the pickup lanes, but you make a left turn into either lane 1
Okay.
or what starts as the pass-through lane but becomes
You're
lane
looping
2.
all the way
Come
around.
all the way around. So, and again, we wanted to make sure that someone coming in this direction doesn't kind of cut the queue or cut the line, because that's when you kind of get, almost 2 or 3 cars side by side fighting for a lane. These cars come all the way around the building, and they enter via,
And now the 2 lanes that are in the actual queue,
yep.
as they're leaving, what's going to prevent them from, having an issue with someone coming around that big loop?
Yep, so we do have a stop bar here. Now, what we can do is install, and again, this is not unique in terms of for Seven Brews. Seven Brews' design is the 2-lane model, so basically every one of their sites, they have 2 lanes side by side and basically a pass-through lane. So this is, every site that they open, this is the style. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll install, some sort of sign that indicates who has the right of way. And again, the part is here is that you're interacting with, an individual on the site when you're giving the coffee. It's not basically like, here's your coffee and the person's inside the building and they don't even see the traffic. So basically, you give them the coffee, you indicate, kind of who has the right of way, and then they leave. And the other thing that's important, I think you could see here, and it was discussed by the operator, is that we stagger the pickup lanes. So you could see here that the person that gets the coffee in the inside lane, they're getting it from a window that the person, or door the person comes out here. The other person has someone walking in front of them. So again, they're picking up their coffee, but they're aware that there's basically a crosswalk right in front of them. They're not basically just driving straight out, at full speed.
Okay, then from Raritan, you would come in, pick lane 1 or lane 2.
Correct.
And then, or I change my mind and I take the outer lane and I come back out and make a right out of Westfield Ave.
You make a right out of Westfield Ave, or technically you can come all the way back around and come out onto onto Raritan if you
What's
wanted
that
to.
odd looking, what was that, the cooler? Oh, that's a dumpster?
Yeah, this is a dumpster.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty looking dumpster from this angle. That's the dumpster, and there's a little hatch area there would be basically when the trash vehicle needs to pick up.
Okay.
At the Raritan Road exit, the bank currently has a sign that shows no left turns.
Coming out. Well, it has a sign. The sign, I don't know if it faced Raritan Road at one point, or it looks, I see it now and it's facing in, but the driveway is entrance only, so I don't know if the sign at one point faced out.
Yeah, I think it's a no left out, because because I actually went to the site today, not to testify, but you can make a left in and then it says enter only, and then the other one on Westfield is in exit only and says a do not enter. Right? Is that correct, Matt?
Correct. And again, the sign, I look back at old,
Years, yes.
I look back at old Street View to see if at one point the sign did face Raritan. I didn't see anyone that it did.
Would you consider putting a barrier on the Raritan Road sign preventing someone from making a left back out? So how it's curved to the right only? Someone's in a rush, they want to,
So an island, but it would, again, assuming that we keep the left in, it would basically be straight on one side and kind of angled to force people to make the right out. Now, again, as long as we could make it work with the county design, Again, I know that, the residential building just next to us, they have an island in their driveway. They also have access to Westfield that they could make their lefts and stuff.
Right.
But their Raritan Road driveway has an island. I imagine we do something similar to that, but again, still make it allow that someone can make a left
We
turn.
basically channelize them to.
Yeah, channelize them to push them to the right. And we have no problem with that.
I wish somebody from the police department was here, because during a previous testimony, they were here for the building across the street, the doctor's office, and he stated that it's a double yellow line, you can't cross it. When the question was, can people be making lefts Raritan Road into the doctor's office? And he says, it's a double yellow line, you can't cross it.
And again,
We have a double yellow line, you're saying we can cross it.
And again, I don't want to speak against the police officer. Obviously, they know the rules and regulations. I could state that in the driver's manual, and again, I think it's now page 72, it discusses what double yellow lines are for, and it's to indicate not to pass in the same direction. But it does say specifically you're allowed to turn into and out of private driveways, which this would be a private driveway. But again, I know I actually
I like that version, because I've
yeah, but again, I don't want to, the police officer isn't here, or whoever indicated that testified to that isn't here. But again, I indicated I'd be happy to meet with him on Monday when I was texting with him back and forth today. And he said he also wants a supervisor there as
But
well.
if that's the case, it's easy. The answer is easy, because then that's the law and we can't do it.
Correct.
So that makes it very simple.
Chairman, I've had this discussion with Captain Lott, and it is permitted going in and out of a driveway.
Okay. So you're willing to work with the police department, even if it's a 90-day trial, and you're willing to remove the tables?
Yes.
And Mr. Triola had asked for the channelized, I don't want to speak for you. Did you want us to explore that as well? That channelized island that you were
Yeah.
mentioning? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have that, just so we're.
Just one other thing, and that might have been from the other gentleman, but
Sure.
you're saying you're trying to prevent walk-up, but you do have a walk-up window.
Yeah, no, I think that the testimony was that if somebody were to walk on site so that they wouldn't be conflict with the drive-through facility, they can just push them towards or direct them to the walk-up window so they can be served and then leave the site on the pedestrian
They
path.
wouldn't be meeting one of the people with the iPad.
Exactly. The goal for them, not somebody with an iPad wouldn't say, hey, you can go behind this car. It's to move them along to the walk-up window, serve them, and then let them leave.
Yeah, we have a specific window in the building that would serve them. It's basically right where the number 8 is, where it says 8 parking stalls. There's a little kind of window door there. That's where you would basically make your order and pick up if you're a walker. And again, as they mentioned, 99% of the people are driving, but maybe someone lives in the building next door, instead of them getting in their car and driving over, they're going to walk into the site. The whole point is they do not want people parking and parking and then walking in.
I mean, just as a comparison, you said you're from this area, like the Starbucks in Cranford.
You said it, yes.
Does that have a walk-up window?
No.
Okay. So someone pulls in, sees a parking spot. Now they're walking across a double lane of potential traffic to a walk-up window. And, just a question.
And again, the spaces are all signed employee only. So again, they're not directed to park there and walk in. Honestly, you're going to get served probably even quicker if you just stayed in your car, if you made it to those parking spaces.
I'm sure once the understanding is that it's a drive-up.
Yep.
It's not going to be a concern.
My only concern is ALJ is a block away, and those kids don't understand, and they'll come walking up. So, I mean, you're saying there's a percentage amongst what you have, and I understand that and totally agree with you. And I believe the new one in Washington Township is on a busy road from what I see
It's on a
pictures.
state highway, that's correct.
Right. So you're not going to get walk up there, but here, you put it in the middle of this area, you're going to get more walk up than you think you are.
And again, I think it's difficult to see here because I think this was an earlier version, but what we discussed is we would have a sidewalk connection basically that would connect to where this hatch is and walk them over because we want to give them a spot as opposed to have them walking through, the entire site. Give them a spot where they can walk because as you said, I imagine the ALJ students are
They're
going to come
going to.
over. It's, no doubt about it. But what we don't want is to have a table there and this become the hangout where they're going to spend for
Well, that's the other
2
problem.
hours. So the idea is if we get them here, we want them in, get them to order and get out. But we also want to discriminate. If there's a 15-year-old kid and they don't have a car,
Right.
they could still be a customer type of thing.
Right.
Anybody else from the board have a question?
I have one.
Yes, Councilman.
I'd like to hear that the 90-day trial because I think that left is you know, in the morning is horrific coming into the school. The school backs up all the way to the light. But on this diagram where the cars is, that second lane, where that red car is,
Yes.
are you saying the third car there can get served before the first car? Somebody came up and said they could cut out of the line if they get served first.
You're saying, like, can someone get their drink out of order?
Yeah, can I get my, if I'm
Drink
the
out of
third
order.
car, can I get my drink before the first or the second car?
I think, Councilman, that's a better question for the operator. Let me just.
Oh, okay.
That way he could clarify it from experience.
So yeah, most typically, it's the first
Identify
car that gets
yourself
served
again.
first.
Oh, sorry. Just say Zach Rosscamp for the record.
Zach Rosscam, owner and operator. So most often, by far, vast majority, the first car gets served first and just can exit the site. But if there's a very large order, if there's a mistake in the order, you can have the second or third car get served and then escape out. But if that does happen, there is an employee there to help them navigate through the drive-through and make sure that they're exiting safely. So they're never just zooming out on their own. Someone will give them their coffee and then say, you can exit to the right here, please wait until there's an open space.
So they could be leaving that lane and a car could be coming in that third lane at the same time?
That is possible, but there's always an employee there. We literally just did this in Washington Township. There's always an employee there looking out in that lane saying, okay, now you can come, and walking them through to the exit.
Yeah, but all due respect, they're part-time kids that are probably going to be working serving coffee.
It's a very fair question, but these are,
There's no curb there that says you can't remove from the line. That's,
no, there's no curve there. It is, there are people both in the car and in the lanes making sure that they move safely, but that is correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions on the board? Counselor?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There are 3 conditions that I believe you've agreed to. The first condition is the one I'd really like to have a clear understanding of what it is, and that is this proposal of a temporary left-in on Raritan Avenue. State that condition clearly for me and for the board and the public.
Sure. It's pretty, I think it's straightforward, is that we would allow the left-in when the store opens for a 90-day period, and the police, along with our team, would monitor it. And if the police department felt that there was an issue after that 90-day period and felt in their discretion, after speaking with the applicant, that it had to be modified or shut down, we would have to do that. It would be at the police or Mr. Troutman or whoever wanted to be associated with that on behalf of the municipality. They would review that. And if it was working, then we would be able to keep it.
So that decision would be to the police department solely in their sole discretion.
That would be up to the board to decide, but what we're proposing is it would be for the police and I guess the board's traffic consultant.
And and their decision would not be appealable. It would be a final decision that you would abide by.
Typically, when things like this occur and the applicant and the municipality's professionals can't agree, we would have the right to come back to the board and explain it, but that would be up to the board in the end.
The other 2 conditions is this discussion regarding the lane where you're able to get out of queue and go around toward the exit. You were going to put some sort of sign there that says what?
What was that condition? I don't remember that one.
Well, I think we said there would be signage where the 3 lanes come together that would indicate who has the right of way.
And then the last condition about the island on Raritan Road. You're just going, subject to county approval and the engineering department's approval, it's going to be installed.
Same with Westfield as well.
Both streets.
The one on Raritan Road, Mr. Triola had requested, and we agreed that, and if the board collectively wants this, we would channelize that one to make sure right out only. That's what I think your comment was, correct?
Is that what you're saying?
Well, we would build it for right out only
Oh, yes,
immediately.
yes.
It would be
Okay.
right in only if after 90 days.
Yeah. Your point was keep them right out so they don't inadvertently go left out.
Channelization is going to need to involve the fire department as well because of their request to be able to get a fire.
Yeah, I think what Mr. Sekor had said is that all the curbing would be mountable so that the fire truck, as they requested in their letter, can go. So that was already a request, but yes, we're happy for them to see it again, sure.
Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a question for you now. Would no tables be number 4 on that list then?
Yeah, we agreed to remove it because it was in Mr. Troutman's letter. He had raised it, so we agreed to remove it.
Any other
Yes.
questions from the board? Hearing none, I make a motion to open this testimony up to the public. Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you, Michael. Anybody from the public wishing to come forward, ask questions of this witness's testimony and only of his testimony? You have available time at the end to ask general questions. Please do so. Seeing no one come forward, I make a motion to close this.
Motion.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Mr. Chairman, our last witness is our professional planner, Justin Osceola.
I state your name.
I, Justin Osceola,
Do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear,
that I will tell the truth
tell the truth,
and nothing but the truth
nothing but the truth,
in this proceeding,
in this proceeding.
so help me God.
Help me God.
State and spell your name and
Justin Osceola, Auciello, 52 Reckless Place, Red Bank, Cofone Consulting Group.
thank you.
All right, Justin, if you could just give the board your professional credentials as a professional planner.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been licensed as a professional planner in the state of New Jersey since 2008. I've appeared in front of this board on about 5 occasions in the last 3 years.
Motion to approve. All in favor?
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So Justin, in preparation of this application, you reviewed the site and the surrounding area?
Correct.
And you've reviewed all the application materials, plans,
I did.
and relevant sections of the zoning ordinance and master plan?
Correct.
All right. Why don't we start, you can give a zoning overview of the site, and then if you can just get into the variance relief that we're seeking and the justifications that you see.
Absolutely. I think it's important to note that this site, from a planning perspective, is a significant improvement over what currently exists out there today. As you saw from the presentation, this is a small building that's proposed. There's significant bulk compliance. There is one bulk variance that is required for the side yard setback, which is in the center upper portion of the site. Let me see how I can control this mouse. Is it on the screen? Oh, thank you. Up over here, I think it's important to note that because we do abut the residential zone to the north of the property, the setback that's required is 50 feet. As proposed, it's 31.3 feet. If we were not adjacent to oh, I'm sorry. Sure. Is this better? Okay. Since we are adjacent to residential to the north of the site, the requirement is 50 feet for the setback of the canopy. As proposed is 31.3. If we were adjacent to a commercial zone, however, the condition would be 20 feet minimum, whereas again, as proposed is 31.3 feet. That's just right. It's just to the canopy, and I think it's really important, as I stated in my opening, this building is small, as you heard from Mr. Chan. The building portion and the shed portion of the site comply with all of the bulk conditions. So we do require one bulk variance just for that canopy. And as you can see from the rendering, the site plan that's up on the screen, there's landscaping that's on that property boundary. As you heard from Mr. Chan, I think it's important, again, from a planning standpoint, shifting up the building that currently exists today on the site, the bank building, out of the front yard setback on Raritan and Westfield. I think, I'm not a traffic engineer, but as you heard from our traffic engineer, that opens up the sight lines of the site. It's also a better, from a planning standpoint, the aesthetics are much nicer as well, having the building and the shed more centralized on the site. And of course, as you heard from Mr. Seckler, as proposed, that helps with the circulation. It's just a more orderly progression of vehicles. There's also the increase of the parking setback from the current condition. There's a decrease in the building height from the current condition. There is a decrease in lot coverage and part and parcel to that is the increase of open space. Again, planners always look, to the aesthetics and the form and function of the site, and I believe what currently exists versus which proposed, especially with all the landscaping that's around the site, I think that really goes a long way to providing that open space visual in a highly visible location. In terms of the other variances that are required, signage in general, it's necessary for safety and the free flow of traffic, but I think as Mr. Chan had noted, whereas there are 5 wall signs that are proposed, only 2 of those signs are for branding, for 7 Brew. And of course, again, as Mr. Chan had noted in his testimony, a total of 163.1 square feet of sign area is permitted per the code definitions, whereas the aggregate square footage is 83.2 square feet. So it's not creating, from a planning standpoint, it's not creating a situation of a visual clutter. This is orderly, and the intention, of course, is to not only to display the site, to have the visibility on the roads, but also, of course, that's part of the branding. In addition, as Mr. Chan had testified as well, given that the building itself is narrow and the facade is rather small, that creates a situation where this sign, as proposed, is slightly over the 10% maximum of facade sign area. But again, that is a condition just due to the shape and the layout of the building.
And you would say that the sign is consistent with a commercial corridor and not very large in that respect?
Right. Again, this is one of the smallest commercial buildings that I've experienced in my almost 20 years of planning, and certainly given the diminutive size of this building and the location on 2 busy roadways, it's really important to have that safety and visibility. And the signs, again, in my opinion, relative to the scale of the site, the size of the site, and the size of the building, I believe it's pretty modest in size. Relative to the menu board signs, Mr. Ricky in his letter dated April 29th, 2025, does mention that the menu boards serve to facilitate the operation of the drive-through lane rather than to advertise the business. I completely agree with that. Mr. Ricky also points out in his review that Section 195-106 point B6 permits a 40 square foot menu board and a 25 square foot pre-ordering menu board, which are both larger than proposed by the applicant. So again, I think the same kind of theme continues with the menu board signs. They're relatively modest in size, and they would conform with that section of the ordinance. In terms of the landscaping, I think I did touch on that. We do propose planting of street trees on Westfield and Raritan Road. 2 existing trees will be preserved and retained, and I believe we are going to meet the comments in Mr. Ricky's letter about some additional landscaping on the site as well. So those are the technical reasons from a planning standpoint that I feel that from the C2 standard for bulk variances, I believe the public benefits are met. In terms of the special reasons, or in terms of the purposes of zoning under the municipal land use law, I think there are multiple that do apply with this application. I would start with purpose A of zoning, which speaks to the promotion of the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. I think the improvement of the site from the existing condition to a use which is going to be of value to the community, and really the curb appeal is going to be a significant improvement over what currently exists. I think that goes a long way to satisfying the general welfare. Criteria G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of uses. Again, as evidenced, we do require one-dimensional variance for that setback for the canopy. I gave the rationale as to why I think it's appropriate, But what really kind of jumps out to me in this application is that there's only one variance that's required from the dimensional attributes of the site. The site obviously benefits from the corner location and the size and the smaller building, so that really goes a long way to providing for the sufficient space to accommodate this use. I would continue with criteria H, which speaks to the promotion of free flow of traffic. Mr. Seckler went through his analysis, and he showed that the site can accommodate the traffic volumes passing the two roadways and also the circulation on the site as well. And I think this is a big one. Criteria I speaks to the promotion of a desirable visual environment through good civic design and arrangement. I think it really speaks for itself. The plan that is up on the screen, the increase in the open space, the landscaping, the shifting of the demolition of what currently exists and the new building, removing that site triangle, a real clean appearance, and of course the architecture, as Mr. Chan had gone through as well. So I think the visual environment on the site is going to be a significant improvement over the current condition. That's the positive criteria. In terms of the negative criteria, the first prong is whether or not there would be a substantial detriment to the public good. Again, the attractive site, it's not a 24-hour use. I think, in terms of there's going to be, screening on the northern part of the site that's adjacent to the residential. There's not going to be any spillage of light onto the adjacent properties. And as Mr. Seckler testified, the circulation on the site and to and from the site works, and we will work with the police department and your board professionals on ensuring all of those conditions as well.
The encroachment of that canopy is just to, I guess, protect cars, customers, and employees from the elements, but it's not creating any negative impact or substantial negative impact to the neighboring property.
That's right, and I would say, and that's a great point, I would say the existing condition today with the drive-through lanes, for the bank, that they are much closer than the canopy that's proposed, this evening. And in terms of whether or not there's going to be a substantial negative impact to the zone plan, the zoning ordinance, and your master plan, this is a permitted use, in the zone. So naturally, the zone already, envisions this use in terms of your master plan. The economic development is promoted through development of this site in this commercial corridor. So I think that really goes to the purpose of advancing the tenets of your master plan. And lastly, your zoning ordinance does cite multiple purposes of zoning that are, for the most part, verbatim from the MLUL. And as I had testified in the positive criteria, I do think there are multiple purposes of zoning that are advanced here. So all in all, the real test of the C2 criteria is balancing whether or not the benefits do outweigh the detriments. And I think in this instance, there are substantial benefits associated with this application. I don't see much in the way of any detriments. Any concerns can be allayed, by the applicant and the professional team. So I think on balance, I think the benefits certainly do outweigh the detriments of this application.
Just two quick things, just sticking on the negative criteria. You don't think there's any substantial impairment to the zone ordinance or zone plan because the actual building is 50 feet away versus a canopy. Is that fair to say?
Yes, absolutely.
And then to what Mr. Chan testified to, even though there are some sign variances, the amount of signage that we're seeking is significantly less than what the ordinance permits. So does that also go to that second prong of the negative criteria?
Absolutely. It's not creating a situation of a visual, clutter, not creating a situation where there's going to be way too much signage on the site. I think the numbers and the data are very clear that it's modest and, appropriate for a location on a corner property.
That's all I have for Mr. Osiel, Mr. Chairman. Sure, just move it up. The other way or the, oh, sorry.
Corner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the existing sign that they said we were refacing. Santander has an existing sign there, and that's being refaced. That's what that is, if that's what you were asking, Mr. Chairman.
Same location as.
Yeah, it's not being moved, they're just refacing it. I think it's fairly small, like 12 or 13 square feet or something like that. Yeah.
Motion.
Anyone from the public wishing to come forward to ask questions of this expert testimony, please do so. Seeing no one come forward, I'd like a motion to.
Motion.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Carmen.
I have no further witnesses, Mr. Chairman, but happy to answer any questions or that the board or anybody may have.
Mr. Chair, before you open it to the public for comments as opposed to questions, you may want to hear from your professionals whether they have any comments regarding the application or the testimony tonight. We'll start with Mr. Ricky.
Good evening, everyone. I prepared a letter dated April 29, 2025, as part of the applicant's direct testimony. Mike, is my mic on here? As part of the applicant's direct testimony, they essentially agreed to some minor recommendations in the letter in terms of landscaping, ensuring that there's screening for any type of HVA equipment and similar type requests. The variances here, to me, I think, things to focus on, clearly the side yard variance from 50 feet to 31.1 feet. I think the board can evaluate the fact that that is an open canopy. The applicant potentially could have had that canopy on the opposite side of the building without a variance, but that would reorient the circulation pattern and would not work on the site. In my review of the ordinance, the provision for the 50-foot setback was created when the township created the affordable housing zone to the north. The underlying zoning for the CN zone, if it's side by side, you can have a 0-foot setback. And then on the corner lot, traditionally, I think Mr. Osiello pointed out in his direct testimony that typically a rear yard setback is applied at 20 feet. Because it's an open air structure, it's not to the building line. I think the board can take that into consideration in evaluating the appropriateness of the setback. Regarding the signage, again, one of the things that I look at as a planner, is there excess signage in the total quantity and total square footage? The testimony resulted that that's not the case. The applicant's looking to add some additional directional signage on the building. And from my perspective, it seemed to be scaled to the building and proportionate. I didn't see anything overly negative in that regard. Regarding that menu sign issue, that provision of the code is located in a section called determination of sign area. I believe if we recognized that when we were preparing new signage regulations for the menu boards, that section would have been removed. So I think there's a conflict in the code today that the township may want to look at moving forward with that provision. And then the restaurant menu display sign, that the township's requirement of 1.5 square feet, that assumes that if you go over to the bistro and there's a menu next to the building, that's what that 1.5 square feet is for. So here, they're trying to have their menu displayed on the property. For me, they're trying to promote their business, and at some point, I think the board has to evaluate that on their own. With that, there's no real reason other than they're promoting their business here and trying to have another menu board. But overall, the signage in terms of the scale of it to the building was proportional. And I do think there are arguments regarding it being a canopy and the overall improvements to the site. I think the board can evaluate that as meeting the positive criteria with no substantial negative impact as well. That's pretty much it this sum.
Yes, I've got no further comments beyond our March 13th, 2025 memo. The applicant's already agreed to address our comments along with those of police and fire, so.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening. I did a review
Just
memo as
identify
well.
yourself.
Pardon?
Just identify yourself.
Yes, Jay Troutman, McDonough and Ray Associates, Township Traffic Consultant. I did a review memo as well. They've agreed to comply with my comments, and then this morning I received the comments from the police regarding the left turn in from Raritan Road that was discussed during the hearing. So I took a second look at all of that. I would note that that left turn movement did exist when the bank was operational. I'm not aware of any traffic safety issues that came about as a result of that left turn in existing in the past. I checked the sight line on that, and you have clear sight line for people that are turning left into the use. So I think from a safety standpoint, you have the opportunity to have that function safely. The traffic signal provides gaps in traffic, so there's adequate capacity for the movements that are projected to make that movement. And I really like the idea of the probationary period to just let the police look at it, let me look at it while it's actually operating. I think that's a really nice solution, just to be sure that it operates safely. And that's really all I have to say.
At this point, I make a motion to open this to the public for any comments it may have. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike, thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to come forward, make any comments regarding this application, please do so. Seeing no one come forward, I make a motion to close to the public. Do I have a second? Mike, thank you. Lance? Lance. All right. Any discussion from the
Well,
board?
perhaps do you want to offer an opportunity for a closing statement to applicant's counsel?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll be short. So first, thank you for the board for listening. I know we had 4 witnesses, so I appreciate everybody's attention to the matter. Again, we came in here after consulting with your professionals on the layout, tweaking it based on that. I think what the purpose of site plan review is to impose reasonable conditions and work with the board on making the site better. And I think between agreeing to the review letters that we have here, from your professionals, also some of the conditions that we've enunciated throughout the course of the meeting, such as the channelized island, the 90-day look back, removing of that table, some of the signage that's been brought up in the last couple days from the police department and the fire department, I think have just reinforced that this application was prepared responsibly and is even better than it was when it came in. There's really just one bulk variance, and we're looking at the ordinance, and it's even debatable whether it's required based on the fact that this is a corner lot. But even if it was required, it's just the canopy. The building itself complies. It's open air. It's for the safety of the employees and the customers. So we think it's appropriate, and the rest of the site completely complies. And you have all these benefits that I think we're imposing, such as reducing impervious coverage, adding more landscaping, improving the lighting and the circulation on site. So I think those are all benefits, and I think the signage, like I said at the beginning in my opening, and I think was reiterated by all the testimony and by the board's planners, that the signage variances are really a function of the fact that it's a small building, but the signs themselves are not that large or impactful. So I think in terms of those variances, we've met the C2 criteria set forth in the municipal land use law, and if the board's agreeable to do so, I would respectfully request that they grant the application with the conditions that we've discussed this evening and all the representations that we've made throughout the course of the proceeding. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, the one thing I would add to the conditions is that while there's an indication that there will be a meeting with the police department tomorrow, that may not happen. And so what I would suggest is that that meeting occur within 2 weeks of tonight, and that the way the police department and the traffic engineer is going to proceed or recommend to proceed forward, that be accomplished before the resolution is memorialized, so there's no issue as to what is being agreed to.
I'm fine with that if the board wants that. That's fine, sure.
Okay. So I would request that be part of the conditions if you're inclined to move this forward.
Sounds reasonable, Counselor. Thank you.
One more question.
Sure.
And I guess this is more for us. In the future, if they decided to start doing food, I mean, I know that it might not be in the model, but
To me, just you want my opinion, that would be something we'd have to come back to the board from if we started cooking or doing something like that, because even if it's not an express condition, for example, in the resolution, and then it's up to your attorney to do, we've represented what we've represented, and we're bound by that. So if it's deemed to be a material change, we'd have to come back to the board and seek that modification.
Sure.
That would be my opinion on that issue.
And I will add that as a condition.
It's not like food. I'm sorry, they do have muffin tops, but there's no cooking. They do have muffin tops, but there's no cooking. I just wanted to be as clear as possible.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, does someone like to make a motion to approve or deny this application?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Mike Triolo. Counselor, would you like to just give an overview of the conditions that are part of it?
Well, yes, at the beginning, I recited the 5 variances that are sought. Right now, the applicant has agreed, and as Mr. Tuvell said, they've agreed to all of the conditions in the police report, fire report, engineering report, and planner's report. They've also agreed to certain conditions on the record. An additional condition was the one I mentioned about meeting with the police department within 2 weeks and having the outcome of that meeting memorialized before the resolution is adopted.
That's acceptable, yes.
And the purpose of that is that if there is a problem, you know it before you adopt the resolution. I don't anticipate there will be a problem, but you adopt that before you memorialize the resolution, and if it needs to be addressed, the applicant can come back and address it before you start a probationary period.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Carmen. Roll call vote?
Mayor Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Councilman Benetti?
Yes.
Mr. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Triola? Mr. Altman?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Brocato?
Yes.
Mr. Oroncio?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Nothing.
Jim, let me just see your agenda. I just need to see the agenda. You got page 2 of it?
Right, we're still in session. I think, Mr. Ricky, you have a presentation for us?
No, there's 2 more things coming up.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to head up, right?
Yeah, why don't you go outside and...
I prepared a PowerPoint presentation just to
Go speak in the speaker.
go as fast or as detailed as it wants. Right
The
inside
microphone.
here? It's the design of this USB, it like closes. Here, I think I got it now. Okay. Where are we here? All right.
Donna, would you call this matter up so it's on the record? call up the item that's on the agenda for this.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation and resolution redevelopment study and preliminary investigation report for 52 Westfield Avenue, Block 105, Lot 2.01, Broadway and Joseph Street, Block 105, Lot 26.01, and 56 Westfield Avenue, Block 105, Lot 1.01.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Paul Rickey. Mr. Cruz asked me to go through for me to requalify myself. The study that you are hearing tonight is a condemnation study, so he wanted to be clear about my background and my credentials to prepare the study. Starting, I have a master's of city and regional planning from Rutgers University, which I received in 1997. I've been licensed as a planner since the year 2000. I currently am doing work as a municipal planner here in Clark, try to go in order, Guttenberg, Lincoln Park, Linden, Middlesex, Nutley, Prospect Park, and South Brunswick. The preparation of redevelopment plans and redevelopment studies has been a focus of my practice, and I also prepared many while working for other consulting firms. I would estimate that I've prepared approximately 50 or so redevelopment studies in approximately 18 to 20 communities throughout the state. I also testify on private development applications. I've been qualified in over 250 communities throughout the state. I think Albert wanted to go into some of his expertise. I work for some of the larger companies, Verizon, AT&T, PSE&G, and the like. So I hope that's sufficient, Mr. Cruz.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Chair, this is a little bit unusual. I did make that request of Mr. Rickey because although you know him very well and he's been your planner for a number of years, this particular redevelopment study is slightly different than some of the other studies that you have undertaken. In this particular case, the Township Council authorized that it be a condemnation redevelopment study. So the effect of that is at the end of this process, if you recommend that this area be designated as an area in redevelopment to the council, and the council accepts that recommendation, then the governing body and Clark can exercise the power of eminent domain and take that property. So in my judgment, I think it's important that there be a clear record of the qualifications of the individual that did the study and then the elements in the study. And the elements are really statutory elements. Mr. Rickey is required to follow the local redevelopment and housing law in preparing his study. You've been through the redevelopment process or the preliminary investigation process several times, but I would ask Mr. Rickey to, in general terms, outline what the redevelopment steps are, so to put those in context.
Sure. As the board is likely aware, the process starts with the mayor and council. The mayor and council authorizes this board to take a preliminary investigation report. In that matter, you asked me to undertake that report. As Mr. Cruz said, I prepare the report in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing law, and I'm going to go through this as part of my presentation that indicates a number of standards that must be applied in order for an area to qualify as an area in need of redevelopment. As a matter of background, the board is likely aware of the fact that you've already designated the majority of this site as an area in need of redevelopment, an area in need of condemnation redevelopment already. And maybe I'll just skip forward here. I'm just going to skip forward to the map just for a moment. Can everyone see that in enough detail, or should I be zooming in a little bit?
Zoom in a little bit. That should be good. A little up.
Sorry, I'm going to have to work on my scrolling. Not too good at this.
There you go.
So here we are looking at the aerial. You can see Westfield Avenue, running in the bottom left diagonally through the site. Joseph Street on the upper left portion, and then Broadway. So we have 3 roadway frontages. I think everyone recognizes the primary property, Block 105, Lot 2.01, the site of the former A&P supermarket. I think it was another supermarket before that. People are going to tell me. And also Block 105, Lot 26.01. These properties are under separate ownership. Although they've continuously operated together, and I'll talk about this more in a moment, but the overflow parking associated with the A&P and a loading dock were serviced from 26.01, as well as the only access to that lot is from primary lot 2.01. Previously,
Mr. Rick, when I checked the tax records, it showed both those parcels being under the same ownership.
not when I checked them, unless there was a recent change. And that was the same when the previous redevelopment study was done by Mr. O'Brien. He had the same conclusion. So if that's changed, it's still a separate lot of record, and I'll go through that. And then, so the board has already found that the A&P site, really collectively how it's operated, Lot 2.01 and Lot 26.01 qualified as an area of condemnation redevelopment a few years ago. When the resolution was submitted to study the area, it included all 3 lots. For that reason, I felt it necessary to reaffirm the fact that those properties still qualify as an area of need of redevelopment. And then the new property, the former Investors Savings Bank, is located on Block 105, Lot 1.01, the corner piece of Joseph Street and Westfield Avenue. And I'm going to go through some of the basic stuff quickly. Collectively, the study area, let me see if I can zoom out here a little more, is 2.23 acres. There's the 3 properties. Again, I just discussed the uses of the property. They're in your DTV downtown district. And as I previously said, 2 of the 3 properties have already been designated as an area of need redevelopment. I showed you the map. Some of this I talked about, just to give you an idea of the sizes of the property. Lot 1.01 is 15,000 square feet. That contains the Investors Savings Bank. I'll talk about this more in a moment as well, but the property itself for the Investors Savings Bank is in fine condition. The property is being retained well. But what I will talk about is under the law, the redevelopment law was revised, I guess, about 3 or so years ago, where it recognized that if a property, and I'll go through this in more detail, has been vacant for a period of 2 years or more, it qualifies as an area of need of redevelopment. It says significant vacancy here. The property is 100% vacant. So just based on that fact alone, as a matter of law, it qualifies. And the lot 2.01, the lot behind the Investor Savings Bank, what I refer to as I guess the back operation property of the former A&P, that's 1.5 acres. And then, did I pass it here? And then the former supermarket site is 1.53 acres. The criteria that are being considered tonight for the redevelopment area are as follows, and I'm going to read this into the record. Criteria A, the generality of buildings are substandard, unsafe, unsanitary, dilapidated, or obsolescent, or possess any of such characteristics, or are so lacking in light, air, or space as to be conducive to unwholesome living and working conditions. And that criteria I'll discuss is met for the former supermarket site. I think everyone knows that property. The board's already heard about it. The building's gutted. It's boarded up, and I'll talk about it more again in a moment. There's been issues of attractive nuisance, and why it's boarding up is there's reports from the police department of people trying to get into the building, getting into the building. There's no active mechanical systems on the site. The site's been vacant. I actually lived in town when it went vacant in the years after, but I didn't know the exact date, so I relied on Google photography and the port that showed it around 2007. So we know it's been vacant for at least 18 years or so, that building. So this is a classic case, which I'll discuss more in a moment, of the 8 criteria being satisfied here. As I mentioned before, the B criteria, which will also apply to the supermarket property as well as the investor savings bank, and I underlined the discontinuance of the use of a building or buildings previously used for commercial, retail, shopping malls or plazas, office parks, manufacturing or industrial purposes, the abandonment of such buildings or buildings, and it goes on, significant vacancies of such buildings or buildings for at least 2 consecutive years. And what we're talking about in that context is, what's a significant vacancy? We're looking at the property. Since there's one building on the property, that's 100% vacancy of that property, which I found to be significant because it's in its entirety. Or the same being allowed to fall into so great a state of disrepair to be untenable. So you have to recognize a property could have a supermarket on it with multiple businesses, so you're evaluating, at that point you have to make an evaluation of what a significant vacancy is. Maybe there's 10 uses, but that's not the case here. So I think the law is clear. And then redevelopment criteria D, areas with buildings or improvements which by reason of dilapidation, obsolescence, overcrowding, faulty arrangement or design, lack of ventilation, light and sanitary facilities, excessive land coverage, deleterious land use or obsolete layout. And the key is, this is the second prong, or any combination of these other factors are detrimental to this health, morals, or welfare. So the point is that just because there's paint flaking on the building and the site's in disarray a little bit, you still have to relate that to the second prong, that this results in factors that are detrimental to the health, morals, I've had a long night, I'm sorry, I'm thirsty, or welfare of the community. And I've already talked about the police reports, people breaking into the building, and I'll talk about some other factors as I move forward. And then finally, as you heard, properties can also be designated that don't meet a specific blight criteria. And there's no hard rule on this, but generally, it's agreed upon in the people that do this type of work that this should be used sparingly. You shouldn't rely on the entire area under Section 3, but it is something that could be used to designate properties that are in need of redevelopment. Here, a redevelopment area may include buildings or improvements which of themselves are not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, but the inclusion of which is found necessary with or without change in their condition for the effective redevelopment of the area which is its part. And as we move back, looking at the site, some of the principal benefit, too, of the investor savings bank, I think it's pretty clear that it creates a perfect square lot for development potential that improves the ability to develop this lot in really the best manner possible, and including the smaller lot associated with what I consider to be the additional parking area and loading area on lot 26.01. Let me just move forward here. I have a little too much text here probably, but I wanted to create a clear record tonight. Again, the A&P lot has been vacant for approximately 18 years. And I'm going to show, maybe I'll jump to some of the pictures before, and I'll come back to this. On the upper left picture, that's the rear loading dock area that's just in a state of disarray. 2 pictures inside the building. Just to be clear, I had to take these pictures from the front window when I asked to have access to the building. When I spoke to the property owner, the building was boarded up. Why was the building boarded up? Because people were breaking into the building. So I said, let me go to the front window and see if and that showed pictures all the way to the rear of the building that shows that the building is gutted, that there's no mechanical systems, wires are hanging, floor panels are hanging. This is a building that is unwholesome for people to work or to live in its current state. The picture 4 in the bottom right, that's showing some portion of the fence that's attempting to keep people out, and the boarded-up nature of the building. The building's 100% boarded up. There's no access for anyone to get to the building, because it's my understanding is that when the project moves forward, that building would just be demolished, and there's no need for someone to go inside at this point. And then just a few more pictures, you know, again, showing the boarded-up nature of the business building, the broken pavement around the parking lot, the lack of striping, the broken pole in the middle of the parking lot that looks like someone ran it over. It's a former light pole. So the site's a mess, for lack of a better word. Regarding the B criteria for the supermarket building as well, again, for the same reasons, for the A criteria, the building is currently in a state that it's untenable. I think those pictures show that someone cannot activate that building. It's been gutted, and it's been vacant for 18 years. There are no mechanical systems that operate on the building, so it could not just be turned and reactivated, this structure. Again, for the investor savings property on lot 1.101, I'll show you a picture. On the front of the building, when I visited the property, there's a sign, there's a picture on the window that says, "Our branch was closed on Friday, February 17th, 2023. That assisted in determining whether that 2-year period was indeed met, and this is something that was posted by the property owner, so we felt satisfied that that 2-year criteria was 100% satisfied. And then we just show a couple pictures of the property. The property continues to be well-maintained. It didn't show any dysfunction. It's maintained in good shape, but it does meet the B criteria based on its period of vacancy. And then the D criteria, I talked about the reports from the police, documented a resident reporting someone climbing into the building, illegal dumping, again, teenagers climbing onto the roof. This is all in Appendix E in the back of the report. Teenagers breaking onto the site, well as graffiti vandalism. And again, based on our discussions with the property owner, that is what led to the building being boarded up to prevent that attractive nuisance in the community. We saw the rear of the building, particularly on the loading dock. It's overgrown with vegetation, littered with debris. Again, the site's boarded up. Access to the building is not possible. This impedes emergency action. And collectively, all these result to an obsolete layout and design that's harmful to the public morals, safety, health, and wealth of the community. Regarding 26.01, that's essentially a paved parking lot that may be under common ownership now. My recollection and my review of the property tax record show it being under 2 owners. Also, that was reflected in Mr. O'Brien's report as well. Again, the conditions have not changed for that property since the last time the board has witnessed it. It clearly is needed for the effective redevelopment of the area to maximize the square property. It's kind of odd that it's not considered part of one property since it's always been tied to the supermarket property through access, the ability to utilize that rear loading dock in that portion of the site. And it's my opinion that having this property in the redevelopment area would make it a more effective ability to redevelop the project as a whole. And when you look at the project as a whole, in terms of, when you look at the project as a whole, the planning board in 2021 approved 75 residential apartments that would also contribute to the township's affordable housing obligation. Associated with that, in my review, I was not around, of the resolution, that would include as well at least 12 spaces that would be available for public parking. And in that resolution, it said that the entire surface parking lot on lot 26.01 in that general area would be available for the public as well. So this project was designed to provide public parking to downtown residents, provide affordable housing, and I thought it was always a project that was intended to spark somewhat of a Main Street look in the DTV district. So all these elements that add to the ability to reactivate this project are really essential to the town in a number of ways, is what I'm trying to say. Help meet its affordable housing obligation, to meet your goals for the DTV district through the revitalization of it, and clearly to get rid of the eyesore that's been in place for over 18 years there, and to get this project moving again. I kind of went a little quicker than I thought I would there, Mr. Cruz. If you need me to be more specific on anything, I will. But that really summarizes the conclusions. This is a pretty solid textbook case of meeting the criteria, particularly when the fact that the board has already found that 2 of the 3 properties met the criteria, and the last remaining property meets it based on the 2-year vacancy provision under the BEAD criteria. So it's
The only comment I have is when you were scrolling, you have a chart.
Oh, yeah.
And that chart, just visually explain what that chart is.
the summary chart. It's meant to show the criteria satisfied on each site. So on criteria 1.0, lot 1.01, that's the investor savings bank. It meets the B criteria. I didn't talk about the H criteria tonight, but that's a smart growth planning principles that it results in promoting smart growth. It's generally felt that when you apply the H criteria, it has to be with another factor. You can't rely upon itself because it's a non-blight criteria. But advancing the municipal master plan, encouraging mixed-use development along Westfield Ave is a smart type of growth as recognized under the state plan. And this application would promote smart growth. And that holds for all the properties. For block 2.01, that's the supermarket primary property. I showed how that meets purpose A, purpose B being untenable, purpose D through the obsolete layout design, and purpose H. And then finally, the remaining surface parking lot on 26.01, I showed here as H, and conservatively needed for the effective redevelopment of the area. I will note that the previous report said it met the E criteria. I did not make that same claim because the information really did not show me that today that there is a diversity of title or something that's causing that lot from redeveloping. Clearly, it's underutilized. I couldn't come to that 100% conclusion, so I left it as criteria needed for the effective redevelopment of the area. However, that site's already been designated as well.
And in terms of meeting criteria, other than criteria H, for a property to be designated for redevelopment, it has to meet only one or more of the criteria, excluding H.
That is correct.
So all of the properties, one property includes 4 criteria, or 3 criteria excluding H. 1.01 includes 2 excluding H, and 26.01 includes 1, the needed for redevelopment.
And that's a smaller property in the redevelopment area. On an area, it's 15,200 some up square feet out of, getting old, 2.23 acres. So it represents a relatively small area of the redevelopment study.
I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chair, but I did neglect to set forth some procedural items before Mr. Ricky began his testimony.
I do have a question. Why wouldn't lot 2.01 be considered needed for effective redevelopment?
Because it's the parent property that meets all the criteria. So there's no, it already meets the criteria. So it was really duplicative to put it in, I felt.
Would have made tic-tac-toe.
What? I can't.
Would have made all.
Oh, okay, I would have.
Any other questions on the board?
I don't know if this is the Ziggy Wolf property.
It's my understanding that the part of the delay resulted from the redeveloper's desire to, obtain the investor bank property. I don't know if that transaction has occurred yet, but that's the goal, for this to be one cohesive development. In my understanding, if that happens, this project should move forward. At least what I've been told by the redeveloper.
Procedurally, Mr. Chair, just let me add a few things to the record. On July 15, 2024, the council authorized the planning board to conduct this study. On September 5, 2024, the planning board authorized the planner to conduct this study. On April 10, 2025, and then again on April 17, 2025, notice of this hearing was given in the Union County Hawk. So I find that the board has jurisdiction to hear this matter. Madam Secretary, did you receive any written comments regarding the preliminary investigation report? Did you receive any written comments?
I did not. I did not.
Thank you. What the board is being asked tonight is really a very narrow question. Does this set of properties meet the criteria for redevelopment? You're not being asked to project into the future what's going to be built here, what it's going to be, what the redevelopment plan will look like, what a site plan would look like. You're just a narrow focus on whether or not the criteria is met. If your recommendation to the council is that the criteria are met, then the council has to take separate action. A redevelopment plan has to be prepared and adopted as any other ordinance, and eventually it would come back to the board for site plan approval, but that is not before you tonight. In addition to that, I would like to mark the preliminary investigation report that you have before you as PI-1, and the power presentation that Mr. Ricky has utilized as PI-2 for the record. With those procedural items, Mr. Chair, you can proceed to debate or discuss the matter.
I find that Mr. Ricky has presented sufficient information to determine that the property criteria has been satisfied, and we can proceed. Any other comments, questions? I make a motion to, is it a resolution or?
Well, I did include a resolution, a draft resolution in the package. Because there was no public comment, there is no need to amend the resolution. The resolution is consistent with the testimony that you have heard tonight and with the preliminary investigation report.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. You.
Got it. Roll call vote.
Mayor Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Councilman Maniti?
Yes.
Mr. Koch? Mr. Koch?
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't give the audience an opportunity to come forward with any.
No, you're absolutely correct, and that was my fault. I should have been paying more attention. I apologize. I saw no one. Well, there is someone. There are two people behind Mr. Ricky. You should ask the public. Yes, this is a public hearing.
At this point, I make a motion to allow the public to come forward with any questions or.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone from the public, please come forward. State your name and address.
Delia Collins, Clark, New Jersey. I just have a couple of questions.
A little closer to the speaker, please.
I'm sorry?
A little closer
To the mic,
speaker.
speaking to the mic.
Okay, is that better?
Just,
Okay, Delia Collins, Clark, New Jersey. I just have a couple of questions regarding the investor savings property. From what I tried to investigate today on my own, is that still owned by Investor Financial Services Incorporated? Okay. And I went on some of the tax information, and the Joseph Street and Broadway piece of property, there's no owner listed?
Paul, could you get up to the microphone so we can capture this all on?
Sorry.
I'm not sure if I understand the question, I'm sorry. Maybe
Okay.
let's go to the map, maybe. Will that help?
No, because I know on the ourclark.com page.
Okay.
You can put in an address, or you can put in the block number and find out who's the owner of the property.
Okay.
Okay, and on this property, there's no actual address, it's just block 105, lot 26.01, and there's no owner listed?
When I looked it up, it showed, because I rely on tax records,
Mm-hmm.
and my understanding is it's realistically owned by the same property owner.
Clark Broadway is-
But it's listed as separate owners in my tax database. And then years and years ago, there was distinct ownership, but with the same address, and I did not see that, so I conservatively called it separate ownership in my report.
And under what you put out today on your agenda, it said resolution. Does that mean the resolution will be presented to the township at the next workshop meeting? Or was it supposed to mean that a resolution would come from this meeting?
No, a resolution would come with this meeting if the board decides to recommend to the council to designate this as an area in redevelopment. This board recommends by way of resolution that is given to the mayor and council. Then the mayor and council make an independent determination as to whether or not to accept or reject or modify the recommendation of the planning board. So this is the first of two steps.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to come forward? Please do so. State your name and town.
Hello, Susanna Fagan Savelli, 60 Wendell Place, Clark, New Jersey. Just now, I think I heard you guys mention about, or ask if there were any public comments, something like that, on, maybe I'm just ignorant, but I'm not sure we've seen anything to comment on prior to this meeting. Was there some place that we should have looked at so that we can, submit some public comments to?
I'm sorry, comments about what we just heard, or something separate?
She wants to know about where she would have seen the report to comment on. Is that your question?
Yes.
Well, it's available when the agenda goes out. It says that it's, that it's going to be on the agenda, and it's available in the clerk's office for anybody that wants to see it.
I mean, there was you click on something and nothing came up. So I knew this topic was on the agenda, but there was nothing to comment on.
No. Well, the actual report is not put on the webpage. It's available in Town Hall for anybody that wants, any document, like Kevin says in the beginning of the meeting, is available at Town Hall for site plans, reports, anything.
Oh, okay. I guess I may be just ignorant, but I only saw the agenda a couple days ago, April 29th or something like that, it came out. So we're supposed to go to Town Hall, look at the report.
Well, you could always call, and we could email it to you at any time.
Yeah, I just wouldn't know about it until I saw it on the agenda. So it just seems like, maybe like I said, maybe just I'm ignorant that I don't know what the process is to even comment on it. So when you ask, are there any public comments, that might be why you're not receiving any public comments. So I'm not sure we can address it anymore, but just wanted to let you know.
Well, just two things. The legal notice was published twice in the newspaper, once in 2 consecutive weeks, and the last publication 10 days before tonight. So
And what publication is this?
the Union County Hawk, okay, that is the official newspaper of the town. So there was an opportunity to come to the municipal building and review the report, but you've heard the testimony tonight, you've seen the PowerPoint presentation, and so based upon what you have heard in testimony from the planner and the PowerPoint presentation, is there any comment that you have or any question of the planner?
Well, I do have some comments.
Okay.
Ask a question, but I would like to have a little more time than just listening to this, presentations. That's why when you asked, were there any written comments from the public, it's like, oh, I couldn't have had any written comment.
Well, this is your opportunity tonight.
Well, I think I need a little bit more studying of the presentation of the whole thing before I can make a comment.
That's why we advertise it twice.
Yeah, like I said, maybe I'm just ignorant.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Do you have a comment or a question, please?
Like I said, the whole thing about the redevelopment criteria, if a business is vacant for 2 years, can be condemned already, kind of surprised me. People are asking for the highest price for their own business. I mean, it's not my, I wish I owned those, but I don't own those things. But I was just surprised at some of these criteria. So I would like to understand, where did that come from? Is it a standard thing? Like, it's not something I can just comment now, when I heard it for the first time. So I was wondering, how could I have known about this so I can comment on it prior to this meeting?
All of the criteria that Mr. Ricky relied upon are by way of law, and that law was adopted by the New Jersey legislature and signed by the governor. So it is state law, the local redevelopment and housing law. It is not something that the Township of Clark Council developed. It is not something this planning board developed. It is relying upon state law that has been codified. Now, as Mr. Ricky said, the criteria regarding substantial vacancy was added approximately 3 years ago in conjunction with the COVID-19 pandemic, when many office buildings, shopping malls, strip malls became vacant and were just sitting there idly. So the legislature added a new criteria, which is this vacancy concept, to allow property to be redeveloped and not just simply sit there forever. And you see that in this case, the supermarket site has been vacant since at least 2007.
Which I totally agree with.
And the bank...
I'm surprised 2 years, people are trying to sell a business. It might not happen in 2 years.
Well, where the council and the board follow the law. So it's
only occurred 3 years ago. That's it.
well, the law is effective on the very day that the governor signs it.
Okay, and prior to that, there was never in existence.
It was not a criteria, correct?
So anybody who want to sell a business, if you don't do it by 2 years.
No, it has nothing to do with selling the business. It has to do with vacancy.
Well, a business is not used anymore, but somebody is trying to sell it. It might take a while to sell it. And this new law says that if you can't do it in 2 years, somebody's going to take it away from you. I mean, it's not your law, so I
Just a
I know
criteria. It's just a criteria you would have to meet as part of a process. It doesn't mean we're going to go looking for everybody that's been vacant for 2 years. It's a process that's occurring. It's one of the criteria that has to be met that allows us to say, this parcel is going to be part of a redevelopment requirement.
But for that Investors Bank,
The bank.
like that was the only criteria it met. Is that correct? That's correct. So,
No.
which is kind of arbitrary, right? Okay. Yeah, so that kind of surprised me, though. So I understand that it's a new law that you guys are using, but it just surprised me. So they say I would not have known about it until this. So when you ask for public comments prior to this, there's nothing to comment because I didn't hear anything.
Sorry for that misunderstanding, but going forward, you now understand that it is publicly noticed in newspaper. We also post it on the webpage. When you see something from the planning board, Donna has graciously said, please contact her. You can either go to town hall and ask for the information, and they'll provide it, or you can contact Donna, and she will email you a copy of it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Would anyone else like to come forward? Seeing no one, I make a motion to close this to the public. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, sorry for that.
Roll call vote, please.
Well, I'll just make it official again.
Okay.
I'm making a motion to approve the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Roll call vote?
Mayor Albanese?
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich?
Yes.
Councilman Manini?
Yes.
Mr. Koch?
Yes.
Mr. Triola?
Yes.
Mr. Altman?
Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Brocato?
Yes.
Mr. Roncio?
Yes.
Resolution passed.
At this point, I'm making a motion to open this meeting to the public. If anyone would like to come forward, have any general comments or questions, please do so. Do I have a second? I'm sorry.
Interrupt you, but Mr. Ricky's going to make a presentation regarding the status of affordable housing.
That's under old business.
Yes, but my suggestion is just open it to public comment after he makes that presentation in order to allow people to comment if that's so. There's
All right, we'll skip. There's no new business, old business. Please give a overview of our status of the report on the fourth round housing element and fair share housing plan.
Sure. As everyone's probably likely aware, this board is going to be required to adopt a new housing plan by June 30th of this year. And right now, I'm going to get into the particulars, but we're looking to schedule that at the June hearing for the adoption purposes. At this point in time, the town created an affordable housing committee. The committee has been working hard evaluating the new laws placed upon the township and its old obligation, its previous obligation to bring that together for one housing plan. As part of the law, as part of the town's previous obligation, the town had a 243-unit obligation in the previous round, which was reduced to 170 units. As part of this plan, the town has to show how it complies with the previous round and the current round moving forward. And the town has selected a number of sites in the previous round, and we re-evaluated those sites. And regarding the previous round, the plan is going to be drafted for consideration, or at least what's been discussed, or at least how we've been discussing this as a committee in the township's planning board planner, affordable housing, planning board attorney, and affordable housing attorney, is that we believe that all the remaining sites in the previous plan continue to remain viable with the exception of the Jack's Tavern site for obvious reasons. The CVS was built there. You had the Eurotime approval as well, but that site anticipated more development. But the plan as it is for the previous round would remain largely the same. Moving forward into the fourth round, the township had an obligation as reported by DCA of 166 units and a rehabilitation share of 71 units. Under the affordable housing rules, the township could evaluate its amount of vacant land. We looked at this pretty closely. We did it once, and then we readjusted that evaluation. And that evaluation showed that there are no vacant properties in Clark that are large enough to create 5 units that would be necessary to create at least one affordable housing unit. So that results in the township having an RDP, a realistic development potential of 0. We also looked at, as part of that analysis, sites that were likely to redevelop. When you look at the law on this matter, it gives examples of sites that are more likely to redevelop. Those are like farmland type properties. In Clark, the only thing even close would be Schifferstein's. That's already in the plan. Places like golf ranges and the like, there's deed restrictions on the golf course. So then we looked at the town throughout and looked at and evaluated, are there any large vacant properties in town? And those really don't exist in Clark right now. And if they do, they seem to be being occupied or being part of a bigger picture. Here, the Investor Savings Bank, which is a small property, it wouldn't be large enough to create 5 units on its own, unlikely, maybe. But it's still being evaluated for, or still being considered for affordable housing purposes. There's some nuances in the way that the law was written. And the way the legislator wrote the law is that they said that a township is required to zone nonetheless of 25%, it says, of its realistic development potential. So, and if this gets confusing, I apologize. The difference between a town's affordable housing requirement and its RDP that occurs a part of the vacant land analysis is called unmet need. And historically, unmet need, it's like magic. You have to provide opportunities for affordable housing to be developed in part of that unmet need, but it's not a hard number that you have to achieve, but you have to provide those opportunities. What the nuance is in the way the law was written is that it said that you're required to zone for 25% of your RDP and not 25% of your actual need as calculated by DCA. So this is something that we're not entirely sure how it's going to play out through the entire process, but through the strict letter of the law, Clark is for round 4, if the vacant land adjustment is upheld through this process, is required just to provide opportunities for new housing. If that's not the case, and the legislature or the program that reviews this says that Clark has to zone for hard zoning for 25% of that 166, that number comes down to approximately 42 units. So in this regard, what the township did was that we started to look at and evaluate properties. Am I allowed to discuss the properties?
Yes.
Okay. I don't like to do, I'm going to hand out a map, and
Here's the extra one.
So I didn't leave one for myself, but that's okay. I have a table that I'm looking at myself here that's it's a work product. The first property that was identified, I don't need it. Yeah, okay. I don't need it either, but is the Grand Satorians. I think everyone knows that site, the banquet facility off of Madison Hill Road. That property is approximately 4.42 acres. The Schifferstein property, essentially across the street, for affordable housing purposes, was zoned at a density of 16 units per acre. Right now, we're contemplating zoning that property at 16 units per acre for an age-restricted type of development there. Would be at a 20% set aside. That development may create around 14 or so affordable housing units. And should I just go through them all and we'll come back to discussion purposes, or?
Well, right now you're trying to present an overview, so you identify the sites that have been, that were considered as potential, and then the type of overlay zoning that would be imposed on that site.
As the board's aware, the issue in Clark is that there's really no existing large vacant sites. So anything that's undertaken realistically has to occur on a site that has something on it Mr. Cruz is looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, I'm just paying
There
attention.
just
I'm-
aren't
I'm-
properties that are lying around vacant in your built town. And the vacant land adjustment, validated that. And part of the process too is you can receive some credits depending on how redevelopment does occur as part of this project. The second area that was identified are 4 properties that are Clarkton Plaza and the Clark Village next to it, as well as right next to Clark Village, there is one, it's like a doctor's office there. And those 4 properties were identified as a potential site. And that's a very busy supermarket. I think a lot of people shop there and the like. It was identified because it is an older commercial complex in the town and has a higher probability of potentially redeveloping. This is not an easy task to select sites when there aren't vacant properties. I think the town, in my review, when you did your previous affordable housing plan, you had more sites that the A&P site, that were more obvious soft sites that you wanted to encourage redevelopment and revitalization to. That's really not the case like it was 10 years ago. So that site was selected, and then the Polish Heritage Foundation, the old school site, was selected. That's a approximately 3.5 acre site. If that site was also zoned at a density of 16 units per acre, that would generate approximately 14 affordable housing units as well. And then finally was identified what we're calling as the Raritan CN sites, and those are shown on the top of the map. And that's essentially going from Friendly's to Momotoro. And then a few of the properties on the back of like where Friendly's is, that area was identified again as having some older commercial buildings. The area behind a good portion of that site adjoins parking associated with Curry Field. And one of the thoughts was that there's some older buildings there. Part of the analysis and was undertaking was that we're trying to have sites that the ability to buffer as much as possible from nearby residential sites and to have transitions. And these properties provided the ability to do that. So this was the collective work of the committee to date. It's not my, say, independent analysis, pick these sites, but that's where we stand right now for discussion purposes. So you have to pick somewhere. So if the board has properties that you think should be considered, I'd like to hear that as well.
None of this takes these properties and changes their current use or forces their current use to change. It just gives the opportunity going forward for a developer to use these properties for increased density to comply with and meet our affordable housing needs.
And the premise behind it is by applying the density of 16 units per acre, that's supposed to provide an incentive for someone to come in and to be able to build a combination of market rate and affordable housing. So these are shown at 80% of the units being market units and then 20% being affordable.
And if the town doesn't present something that gets accepted by the state agency, it's unprotected and a developer could come in and try to force us to develop a property however he sees fit by saying he's going to build affordable housing.
Yes, the township would lose its immunity. And I think the town knows of examples nearby where lawsuits were in place, and that's the goal is to prevent, to hopefully provide something that works for the town and to eliminate that possibility of the town being sued for that purpose, for sure.
Nobody's thrilled with having to do this, but we have to do it to comply with the regulations and laws that are out there, and put us sort of in the driver's seat by limiting it to specific areas as we did the last time. Any questions from the board? Comments? Any other properties that you have any questions about or thoughts on?
Mr. President, I just want to, bring one additional thing up. We've been going back and forth. We probably spent over 10 hours, probably close to 12 hours now on calls going through each one of these properties, identifying, what makes sense is, you've been on those calls. I want to just emphasize that, again, this is not something that, as a township we want to do, as any town in the state wants to do. I mean, currently there's 150 or so lawsuits going on. People are appealing it, but this is being mandated by the governor. It's coming down from the state. It is something that we don't have a choice to comply with. So we are, by working and putting this plan together, we'll protect ourselves in the future. But not only that, we'll direct where those places would be. This is all still going to go to the council. The council's going to have an opportunity to opine on it. So it's not, in the final version. The committee still has to do it, and a detailed plan on how we're going to satisfy the requirements from the affordable housing and the rehabilitation